Hello and welcome, all you time travelers from past, present, and the future. Here we are again, convening once more to figure ourselves out because, honestly, in relation to our choices, we don't know what we're doing.
I'm even more confused now than I was.
Than I was before. Well, today we have the usual suspects, Matt.
Hello.
And Hannah.
Hello.
We're trying to keep it, we kept it nice and trim today just to be able to really dig deep into this one because we're going to the far side of the other planet and checking out a sci-fi movie in the flavor of what you would, I guess you would call Bollywood, bit of a Hindi culture.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to make it more streamlined. So in the spirit of that, let's start with your first impressions, Matt.
Oh,
Overall.
So we introduced this. I'll just keep it. Here's what I wrote down. Neil deGrasse Tyson is apparently a badass, and I think he should lean into more villain characters in his future films.
100%.
Is that what you wrote?
That is what I wrote. Absolutely.
I'm looking at his board. That is exactly what he wrote.
All right, Hannah.
I mean, in trying to just be my most honest self, my first impression of this movie is that I was extremely overwhelmed.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelmed with which type of emotion?
All of them?
Okay.
Good answer.
Good. That is what overwhelmed means.
I can take like a certain amount of stimuli at the same time, and this movie was loud. There was a lot going on. It was really bright. It was hard to follow. Part of that is the language barrier for sure, and the culture barrier. But yeah, I spent a lot of this overwhelmed.
Yep. I would say that this movie really taught me the fact that there are certainly differences in terms of cultural intaking of what would be the same kind of concept in this way, science fiction, time travel.
I'm sorry. I just want to say that Matt just erased his entire board. So he's done with everything that he had to cover for this podcast.
The rest of it's up here, all right? It's Steel Trap.
I mean, he made a pretty succistinct point. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson did excel as a villain throughout this
I, for
movie.
one, was surprised to see him in such a cultural different...
When did this movie come out?
2015.
Okay. So
Or
Neil deGrasse
2065,
Tyson's
depending.
fighting choreography has since improved.
He got fit, okay, for this film. Wait, so we passed your first impressions. Did you have a
No,
short...
I gave mine. I
that-
said that this movie made it very obvious the kind of differences like culture can make when it comes to like the same genre.
Sure. So yeah.
I don't want to go
great...
through. I don't think that I want to go through this entire movie in terms of synopsis. Can we be fair in relation to that?
Can we do like a high level? Because I think it's important that people
naturally
understand.
we will try to summarize as best we can.
Sure.
I feel in terms of the just to kind of stay in line. But I really hope that anybody who's listening to this gives this movie a chance, just because of especially if you're from America, just because it will really give you quite the taste in terms of like the culture shock of what, according to India and according to the IMDb section that I saw, is a pretty highly rated movie. People think quite well of this movie over there. And I want to get kind of more into that aspect of it. Like the story itself was all over the fucking place.
From the beginning of the movie, the story was all over the place. Yeah. And by which I mean, like, we saw the time machine in the first 3 minutes and then not again until minute 43.
Yeah,
Yes.
I forgot about the time machine until an hour into the movie when they reintroduced it. And then I was like, oh yeah, this movie's about time travel.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, here's the preface, right? Time machine, sci-fi, don't forget it exists, and then character piece.
Yeah.
Bookmark that shit.
Yep, exactly.
Because you'll forget.
We will get back to it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was what I thought it was most interesting, if we can kind of go in from that way, just like what was most interesting about the movie, if there was anything positive and negative. I will say that one of the most positive things about the movie when it came to me being surprised about it was the fact that it went for such a positive ending. You know, like for the most part, when it comes to dabbling in time travel in a westernized section in fiction, it's always done from the perspective that you won't get what you want. You know, and not only will you not get what you want, by dabbling in what you don't understand, you will end up making things far, far worse. And for the most part, much like in the Western time machine, right, that we already covered, that's what happens. Like he manages to be able to find a positive ending, but it's of his own design that he makes it so like everything's positive at the end. It isn't because he got the girl back and everything, you know, is honky dory for him now. Like he had to come to terms with the fact that shit is just different now, and that's how it will be. This movie seems, yeah, it took such a roller coaster ride to get right back to where it was before, and even more saccharine.
I'm still mad, but go on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that surprised me. I'm still I'm still ambivalent as to whether it's a positive or negative, but it's just something that has struck out to me, especially because I mean, in an action movie, okay, I get it. Like if we were just watching a normal, you know what I mean, action movie with no sci-fi higher brow level concepts such as time travel, 100% sure the girl, you know what I mean, like he manages to get the girl. They get married at the end. Even his buddy gets married at the end to some rando girl.
Apparently.
Okay, sure. You know.
Yeah, just because, yeah.
Yep, exactly. But it's like the movie sees the philosophical mark that time travel usually goes for. It hits it because she gets fucking blasted in the back of the head. Yeah. And then there's like, nope, no thank you.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to be fed a bummer. What about you guys? In any order?
I'll start with the positive because I think that's important. This movie's fun. I mean, they don't take themselves too seriously. I like the style of the comedy. I laughed quite a bit, and I think that was intentional.
That's true.
I will sure hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the humor of this. I enjoyed the lightheartedness. I think this movie has a lot of twists and turns with serious undertones, but they at no point take themselves too seriously. At no point is this actually a stressful movie. It was just fun. I didn't expect it to be as entertaining as it was, and I was happy to find that. But yeah, same thing on the negative side. This movie basically didn't happen.
Yeah.
This is the classic, like, oh, it was all a dream. Fucking ending that is meant to come off as I don't know, profound.
Yeah, it's like a higher order version of the it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Because they can remember it. They can remember the effects and everything, but nobody else can. All they get to do is, you know, like live out the positive consequences.
Yeah,
which they both seem very happy to do.
They're fucking Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful Life. Like at the end of the movie.
But he just gets everything he wants?
Yeah, I mean, sure, he has to like see all the bad stuff, but then he comes out the other end. None of that bad stuff ever happened, and he's all the better for it. I'm thinking of who else am I thinking of? Ebenezer Scrooge. The same story.
Yeah. Would you guys have rated the movie higher, just internally? You know, having even with all the craziness, had at the end when they've both permanently vanished from the timeline. Like if there would have been, if it was a situation where like we get like a little bit of a viewing of like Anu, right? And she is at her wedding day, but it's with a different guy because like maybe she did try to get back with Ilongo, but in that situation he's no longer like available.
I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'll probably come up against some argument here. As much as I make fun of it because it's hilarious to be like, this 2.5 hour movie didn't happen, none of it matters, I like the ending. I do. Okay. I mean, I think it's very silly. It's very cliche in some ways, but It's like all the effort and all the stress that you poured into this at the end of the day didn't mean anything.
Especially because the dog gets to go back to 2065.
Yeah, and I'm glad the dog made it back to 2065.
Yeah, that. I mean, if there was any stress in the movie, I always had the underlying stress of where the hell's Rika? I mean, like ever since they like took him or her off of the time machine, I've been wondering like where the fuck did that dog go? You know?
Yeah, they like loaded up the time machine. He was nice to the dog when he saw her. He called her sweetie. He put her on the ground, and then they just left her
I
out in
think
the
Left
woods.
that dog, yeah.
If I'm gonna go with a negative, you know, thinking about it now, I think that they had a hugely missed opportunity by not including the dog more, Rika, in the movie more as like a third wheel companion.
Oh, God.
Because they got rid of Boss, right? Like Boss showed himself to be like
Not
selfish.
our third wheel companion.
Yeah, exactly. Like they did a bit of a sleight of hand there because it seemed like they were building like a three-man group situation. That doesn't end up working out. And then it would be great if like the dog has some sort of like advanced intelligence because it's from the future, you know, like
Oh, I would have
Snowball?
thought this was a child movie if that happened.
For sure, the dog's lips start moving.
no,
I'm tapping
nothing
out.
nothing
Like,
that
is-
far. But I'm saying the dog is just able to like pick up on cues, you know what I mean, like be able to like be the thing that like picks up his cell phone when he drops it, you know what I mean, in that car lot when they're all fighting each other with the fucking fog machine. You know what I mean? Like just small touches like that I feel were missed in the movie. I don't especially because the bad guy had a dog, right? The bad guy had a big, mean-looking dog and he was loyal. They were loyal to each other,
Yeah.
you know?
Who
That's
would have
realistic,
lived
though.
had it not been for
That's very true. Yeah.
the misadventures of our protagonists? So.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the reasons that dog always dies that night.
Fuckers.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I was
But he lives in the long run.
who does?
The dog.
Oh,
Because everything goes back to the way it would have been if they hadn't intervened.
no, but by that point, Vosh is already dead, isn't he? Because they fought each other in the warehouse. Vosh did the thing where the mentor vanished because he shot himself in the back of the head.
Oh yeah.
And because of that, he killed himself that night, making it so he couldn't loop around.
Yep.
They go out and they look at themselves as he's drunk, you know, holding him drunk, and then they stop the bike from hitting each other. So by that point, when they were drinking, Vosh was already dead.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter because they went back to like before all of that happened.
Yeah,
so
but
it would have
that
played
all
out with him
happened
dying in
before.
that warehouse.
That all happened before they all because they went back to get that star medallion guy for the old blind man.
Yep.
And that had happened months prior.
How do you know that?
Because that's what led them to finding the dog chained up, and
Oh,
Pulley-
forget it. Okay.
yeah, Pulley grabbed the piece from the chain, let the dog go
Yep.
the first time around,
Yeah.
which allowed him to grab the medallion,
Yep.
which then saved Vosh the first time around. And then the big loop back around is when they see each other over there, and then they stop the bike guy because they think he's the one that helped Vosh.
Mm-hmm.
Which is when Pulley gets shot in the arm that time around.
Yep.
And the time machine gets shot to shit.
This is an excellent segue into the negative. There's too much back and forth traveling around. It's confusing. We have to have a whole discussion about it to figure out what even happened in this movie.
Yeah, they don't
Very true.
demarcate transitions
Very true.
at all, ever. There's no hints. Just figure it out, dummy. Like, is basically what the movie is saying.
Also, how the fuck do you keep going back in the time machine and no one notices? You know what I mean? It's like,
They were
as
not
far as I
careful.
understand, right? I've never been to Chennai, let me just say right now. But
Mm.
it looks like a pretty densely populated place. It doesn't really look like you can just fucking appear in that place and someone won't see. You know? It's
yeah,
like,
and it's also like straight up time machine rules where they move through time, but in the exact same place where the machine is, like landscape wise. You know,
Mhm.
they
Yeah,
don't
they're
change direction.
They're
they
geo-locked to the planet.
right.
It's like, yeah, wherever that would be.
They're popping in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, that bothered me a couple times
bit
is
of
the
a gripe.
lack of overall cautiousness about rolling around with a time machine.
I think that just goes to show the amazing ingenuity of the future. That like, hey, even some morons from like 2015 can start writing our technology, and
This
What
is
I
like.
thought, oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the whole thing has like slapstick armor on it, like all
It
over the
does.
place.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if it would
Yep.
feel like a
Oh my gosh.
slapstick if the actual like fighting scenes were not done so poorly. There's like 1950s
little hop.
punching sounds and nobody puts any oomph behind the hitting, and then people go flying like confetti.
It's kind of surprising.
I
There's
once
not
heard a
big,
punch
like-
sound when his hand was up. you know?
Yeah. That happened a lot. Like, and people just go like backflipping all over the place, like absolutely flying.
I'm kind of
Which was very
surprised there
fun.
wasn't like a big spiky bam and a pow.
This big
on the
onomatopoeia
screen. Yeah.
on the screen.
What really bugs me the most is when it looks like high school play stage acting, like they're just making punching motions, but they're not like putting shoulder behind it, like
Yup.
you're actually punching somebody.
They might not have been able to afford stunt doubles, so it's like you have to do it. So be careful, all right? Because
Yeah.
we can't get hurt.
Just have the director step in and be like, "Hey, man, put your shoulder behind it." That's all it would have taken. Like, just try to look like you're actually hitting something.
Don't touch Mr. Vishnu's face. He is very pretty, and we need him for the movie posters.
Yep.
So. By the way, that main actor's name is Vishnu.
Cool.
Nice,
That's
Yeah.
a cool name.
right? Especially in India. Rock on.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting the movie to have some sort of situation where like there's like time cop repercussions. You know what I mean? Like the amount of back and forth that they went, you'd imagine that there would have been some sort of like issue or like with time itself.
Yeah, because technically, even though it very possibly is the first time machine to have been invented, the future has to have time cops
Yeah.
monitoring the
100%.
time travel situation.
Because even if that guy's experiment was a failure, right? Which I mean, the guy was like, "Nope, you're going to prison. Sorry, bye."
bye.
somebody else has to have picked up on his work, because I mean, the machine did leave. It isn't as though it disintegrated, or anything like that. It left. So somebody somewhere else in the future has to have way more time machines. Especially now, because at the end of the day, the machine does always make it back to the future.
Yes, which would only lend itself to the idea that there would be more of these in the future's future.
Yeah, because he would patent it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And these sorts of shenanigans would be happening all the time.
All the fucking time.
Which is why there would be time police. And yeah.
You don't mess with time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I made this joke during the movie too, and I think it rings even more true now having you just describe this situation, because they're basically just abusing the machine to not be broke anymore, which
Right.
is admirable for sure.
100%.
But
You go, King.
right, but when you start messing with money,
Yes.
and if it's possible in the future, there are time machines, the very first people to have access to those things are rich people. And they're going to be very upset if you start messing with their
Interest.
inheritance. Yeah. People get really upset when you mess with their money.
Machiavelli said it best in that a man will forgive the murder of his father before he forgives the theft of his land.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Deep cut.
Damn, Machiavelli.
I mean, true though, right? I mean, falls
For
right in line
sure.
with what you're saying. And I agree. Like every implication in the movie, would state that, like, what should have happened, right? If we're going to script doctor the movie now a little
we
bit.
can.
Yeah, please, because I mean, it's got good nuggets, and I think that
I
there's
laughed
ways.
3 times.
Yeah, and I think there's really good ways. Yeah, like you even mentioned, you're like, I can't believe this movie is making me laugh.
I was very
Yeah.
surprised.
I think that there would have been great if at the very end of the movie, when Anu is shot, right? And he is trying to fix the machine to go back in time to figure it out one last time. That's when the time cops appear, and they're like, "Nope, we finally caught you, fucks." You know what I mean? We've been looking for you for the past 2 month timeline, and this is where we catch you. Like, they confiscate the machine and they leave their ass there, essentially.
Was this movie not confusing enough? I would have been so jarred and confusing if time cops showed up, arrested them.
I think it would have been par for the fucking course. All right, like
I would have jumped my star rating by 2 had that happened.
By 2,
for sure.
You got a lot of room in that star rating.
Oh, there's plenty of room. There's a lot of room.
Yeah, I think that would have been great, because then at that point there's resonance to the fact that, your consequences do, your actions do have consequences in the end.
Like every other time travel story ever, because that's
there
the
was
whole point.
Consequences. He had to watch his girlfriend die. He tried to sacrifice his life to fix everything. I don't think they completely ignored consequence. Just to play devil's advocate, I'm not giving it a 5-star, but
in the end, nothing changed. He wound up marrying the girl anyway.
After he tried to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because he was willing. He was willing to completely, because he went back in time under the assumption that his drunk ass wasn't going to find a job and he'd lost Anu. Like that when he diverted the accident, that he was just going to probably continue being a piece of shit and that she would probably go find another husband. It just so came to pass that he actually managed to pick his balls up, find a job, someone listened to his idea, and then they were able to actually marry. A little fly in the ointment in that situation, in my personal opinion, is that by that point, no matter what's locked in the timeline is that he gets embarrassed by her dad at the meeting, right?
Yeah. Big time.
Big time, exactly. To the degree, like, you really wouldn't want to be around that man again. Yeah. I mean, like, shit, like, he went out of his way to humiliate you,
on purpose.
He actually invited other people, made them go out of their way.
Their time, wasted his professional colleagues' time to prove a point.
Dude,
can you imagine how much money he probably spent to hoist?
Yeah, each one of the gentlemen and ladies in that room probably gets paid $40 an hour. Easy.
No, more than that. That's a C-suite fucking
C-suite
room.
For sure. Yeah,
they make like $100 an hour, and it didn't look like business hours to me. The rest of the building looked very empty.
Well, I'm sure they're all salaried. I mean, whatever.
They're just here to make fun of the guy.
Sound
anyway.
like my boss. I'm just kidding. No, my boss is great.
This is like the classic, like, let's take the unpopular kid from school and pretend they're popular for 5 minutes until we crack a joke on them.
Right.
I wonder, a high school prank. It really is.
What I wonder is, like, who was that meant to hurt more? You know what I mean? Because Anu's the one that lied to her dad about who he was.
He thought she didn't know. He was like explaining. He was like, good thing we found this out earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. He was under the impression that he sleuthed it out without her knowing that he was a no good piece of shit.
This guy convinced himself that he was doing his daughter a solid by publicly humiliating her boyfriend.
Got it. Which, again, cultural differences. I mean, I think is really interesting if there's like a big macro point in the cultural aspects of the movie that I found really weird, I would say, just from my perspective, is the fact that the answer to all of the man's problems is getting married. Every single man, from the most inconsequential NPC to the main protagonist, every single one of their problems lies in the fact that they are not married.
I think it's a major status thing.
Oh, I gotta tell you, from my perspective, this is maybe the shining star of the movie that you've just illustrated right here.
Oh, thank you.
From personal experience, I was basically a piece of shit until I got married.
It's true.
I can confirm.
I hear no arguments in the room. Yeah. So it's a very solid point.
That's not true. I happily dated you for like 6 years before we got married.
Oh, don't tell them that.
I want them to know that I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, they're gonna like you a lot less, is what I'm saying.
No, I think your point still stands, Matt. Just in the sense that you even if you weren't a piece of shit while you were dating her,
Mhm.
pre-dating Hannah, you know what I mean? And
You
actually
were a
like
piece of
making the conscientious decision of being like, okay, we got to lock this down in a more permanent fashion. Just, even just from your mental scape of it,
Mhm.
is certainly a much different place to be than, the wispiness of being like, oh yeah, we're just dating, like every day is just a new challenging game. Let's see if it works out.
We could be broken up by tonight. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Roll them bones. Yeah.
I do think though that like in the professional landscape too,
hmm
especially if you're like relatively young or on the younger side, there is something that happens where other professionals take you more seriously if they know you're married.
I mean, 100%, right? At the end of the day, what I tell
Oh,
my
yeah.
little sister all the time, because is like, because we were actually talking about like resumes not too long ago,
Mhm.
and I was like explaining like the whole point of the resume is the fact that there are millions of people out there, and you'll never get to know them, and you need shorthands in order to be able to just kind of get even a little bit about an
Mhm.
individual from a professional perspective. So it's like marriage in that way is a big cultural shorthand in the sense
Mhm.
that it says a lot about you in just one word.
Right up front.
It's a very dense word in that sense because it says that someone is willing to fucking stand you long enough to say that they're married to you. You probably own a domicile,
I'm
you
gonna
know.
find this Alec Baldwin quote quick
Yeah, I
while
was
you're.
just gonna ask you about that.
There's a lot of implications that come with the concept that a woman or a spouse, is willing
Tolerates you.
tolerates you exactly. Like you can't like there has to be something about you that is interpersonally marketable enough to make you
Well,
be worthwhile to be a friend, be a colleague, be a business partner. The fact that you're married means that you won't skip town or at least have a lower probability of skipping
you
town.
probably own a house, so you're
hmm
relatively
Yeah,
unlikely to
you have
skip
secured
town.
assets
Yep.
and collaterals and stuff like that we know for a fact that if you leave, that's fine. We can go find your wife or we can go find your spouse and
Mm.
we'll talk to them. And it's just like talking to you at that point. It doesn't even really matter, like
Mhm.
they can answer for all of your debts in that way. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. I mean, we don't have kids and I know that you guys don't either, but that's another thing too is like married with kids, I feel like can sometimes
dum,
get you
da, da,
extra
da,
points
da.
cuz it's like you also run a house of chaos, you
Cut.
know.
Yeah, this I remembered
That's true.
it because
It's true. You managed to be able to rein that in enough to be able to be like, oh, yes, we're here.
Yeah, you keep things alive. I can't
Yeah.
put down casually. I keep
Mhm.
plants and pets alive.
Yeah.
Like,
Not yet, at least.
someday.
Gen Z, come on.
We're counting on you.
oh no, no, I'm just kidding. Gen Z, you're cool.
No,
So
totally.
this quote is from one of my favorite movies of all time, The Departed,
Okay.
starring Alec Baldwin. Have you seen The Departed?
I don't believe so. No.
Son of a bitch.
We can boomerang right on back to the Western
Yeah.
movies next time for
Yeah,
sure.
we can
You
do
have to see The Departed.
that. So Alec Baldwin says, yeah, marriage is an important part of getting ahead. It lets people know you're not a homo. A married guy seems more stable. People see the ring, they think, at least somebody can stand the son of a bitch. Ladies see the ring, they know immediately that you must have some cash and your cock must work.
No, it's very true. Yeah. I mean, humans are creatures that are looking for ways to be able to shorthand, the unbounded nature of reality around us. And that is one of the best ways to be able to do it. And I think that the movie really does. I mean, again, it's weird to me, not putting a negative aspect to it, or, a negative connotation to it, but it is something that here in the United States, at least, although marriage is viewed as an important facet and positive shorthand to your like social development, it isn't so stressing. I think to the degree that it's depicted for in Indian culture, you know what I mean? Because this is Indian culture made for other Indian people, so they view the situation, but like, oh, I get that guy. Oh yeah, no, he's not married yet. Oh, no,
yeah.
like his prospects are really low. Oh, I get it. Like the capacity to be able to stick to the character's plight, you know what I mean, must must be that much easier in that way, you know, where I'm just kind of sitting here like, okay, yeah, you're not married, but I mean, like, what are you doing for yourself? You know what I mean? Like, or,
Like
you
a
know.
young, good-looking guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, you probably got lots
In
of
many
prospects.
cultures, though, and I don't know if this is one of them or not, but I did notice this about the movie. In many cultures, it's also very, very normal for young men to live with their parents until they're married.
Which he did in this movie.
Yes.
He lived with his mother. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think we ever get an insinuation as to what happened to his dad? Like,
No.
Yeah, I don't remember a damn thing about
No,
his dad
right?
now that you mention it. no.
okay. Here's another negative thing I disliked about the movie. Real fucking quick.
I
All
like-
right. They spent, I would imagine, upwards to 10, 15 minutes going back in time and meticulously going through what's her name? Anu's childhood that
Wait.
she remembers vividly and is
Who's-
happy. Anu?
Wait.
The girl?
Wait, what's something that belongs to her?
What I'm saying that they went back throughout the movie. They spent the whole segment of the movie was spent
doing that.
them going back in time to
Never
her
mind.
throughout her childhood when her childhood was perfully happy.
It was
All right.
beautiful.
Normal.
It
Yeah.
literally required no alteration aside from the fact that she fell off a bike.
And she
Yeah.
wanted to watch it. Oh,
Mhm.
she wanted to see the bunny cloud. Let's not forget that.
Alongo is a very giving man.
Apparently so, because I would imagine that if I had a time machine and I had an estranged father, I might use that to figure out what the fuck happened to him. You know, it would be great to be able to
Or if he died, save him.
Maybe you can't do that because it would fuck the timeline too much.
I mean, they were
But
fucking
maybe it
with
would be-
lives in the timeline.
But
Let's
maybe
not
there would
pretend
be
they're
a
above it.
way to like, you know, maybe he's like went missing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like his mom's always like kind of always been sad about the fact that she never got any closure. Or
Dennis
something like
Quaid did this in Frequency.
that. And that's fine. See, there's precedent to it. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that it's pretty vapid. And
Forgot
again,
who
we
Dennis Quaid was for a second or 5 years. Sorry.
we even
Sorry.
mentioned, yeah, it's just so narcissistic. The fact that like the first thing she wants to do is like, oh, a time machine? Can I go back in time to my past?
Can we keep doing
What
that?
a weird, really
Over and over and
long
over.
string of her looking at all of these memories. Because, like, I just tried to put myself in the situation. We were making jokes that she's clearly a narcissist during this point in the movie.
Obviously.
But if someone came to me and they were like, you can go back to any time and look at anything, I don't even think it would cross my mind to go back and watch my birthday parties. Or, like,
Why the fuck would you want to?
Yeah.
What? Also, she still has her dad. She's going back to like these precious moments with her dad. He's still alive. He's doing fine.
yeah, why don't you go spend some time with him in the real time?
What about grandma? Or like, you know, somebody that's not around. You
Dude,
relive-
she went back to, from what I gather, watch herself be born.
Yeah. Then took a picture and used that as the main picture.
She took a
Yeah.
picture of herself kissing her baby self on the forehead. And if that's
She
not the
should've.
most narcissistic thing I've ever heard.
That's like almost, yeah, that's like the most textbook narcissistic thing ever. Like, what would a
Can't get any more
narcissist want more than anything? To be able to go back in
Fucking
time. and-
Narcissist himself is blushing.
like, that's a bit too far. Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she's the cause of her own name. Like, holy fuck. Like,
Oh.
Come on.
is the name of the director Anu? Did she like,
You know what?
did she create some sort of
She's
like,
projecting 3
some
layers
sort of
down
Mary
right
Sue,
now.
some sort of Mary Sue.
I gotta
character?
tell you, it would be a bad name to have.
Anu?
Yeah. Because of things that belong to you. How do you refer to them?
Mine.
No. Like you're like, okay, Anu has a car and you're Anu's friend.
Anu's friend. Anu's car.
Yeah. How does that appear in print?
Mm. Yeah, but that's only an English problem.
Oh.
Is it? Is it? Seems to be a lot of English overlay in this film,
I don't think
in this culture.
that's one of the words that translate. It's usually like key phrases.
I think they bleeped out one word in this movie, and I believe it was cunt.
You think?
I think it was
that's
cunt.
what it was?
Yeah.
You're gonna get us demonetized.
Yeah. Let's wait till we get monetized.
Yeah,
first.
exactly.
And then I'll start
We're
trying
gonna
not
have
to get us
come all the way
demonetized.
back here, 10 years in the future. And we're gonna have to bleep out you saying.
For all we know, this is the next 100K just from seeking the algorithms.
It's gonna be the
suggestions.
first video we're able to get monetized, and they're gonna stop us because Matt said the
God
C
damn it.
word 3 times.
No. You said the C word. It's done. We're pretty woke here at WoonTube now. We don't do that.
I mean,
Don't
hell yeah.
roast
I
our
mean, okay, listen.
platform. What the fuck? You're
People,
gonna ruin the podcast.
people joke about the wokeness of Hollywood, but my God, you can't go a scene drinking alcohol or smoking a cigarette without having a genuine and active advisory about the fact that you shouldn't do that shit, no matter how cool the bad guy looks as they're doing it.
Okay,
Stop doing
two
that.
things
Stop.
there.
Don't do
There's
that.
murder in this movie, like a lot.
Never
of
told
it.
me not to do that.
Yeah. That's okay for your health. Apparently, they're not telling us.
And also, for like a pretty standard looking guy, this is one of the pluses that I wanted to add to this movie. They had me like on board with how cool this bad guy is from the first scene.
Oh yes.
Like they really reined him in. And you know what? They had a very good use of music in this.
Yes.
Not sound effects. Sometimes sound effects were extremely awkward,
Mm-hmm.
especially for like a funny thing. But the music was awesome.
That's very true.
It bumped. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's how they made him so cool. Because like for the whole movie, I was like, I don't take any of these characters that seriously except this bad guy.
I think they used the pet the dog trope perfectly with this bad guy.
What's the pet the dog trope?
The pet the dog trope is just you can't ever be too evil because you've been kind to a dog. Like that's like it's one of those again, it's a shorthand in that way where it's like that guy loves his dog, or at least they're loyal enough, and the dog seems that he is not malnourished, not poorly taken care of. Again,
No.
Well trained.
That boy loves his.
again,
Oh, yeah.
just like with being married, here in the Western society, having a dog is another shorthand in that way that lets, any stranger that you're nearby know the fact that, hey, listen, I have enough wherewithal to be able to have a domicile where I can keep this dog and no one's giving me shit about it, and I can feed it, I can keep it alive, ergo, I can keep myself alive enough to be able to, do something, so.
If you have a dog too, it means you walk it. So it gives you points in like the exercise category too, because you don't get the same oomph from being like, I have a cat.
Yep. And this guy obviously has trained with his dog. I mean, like,
Oh, yeah.
we watched his dog murder a man before, at the very beginning, successfully, and then only because of time travel hijinks was he not able to. No. When he was positively affected with time travel hijinks, he was on it and saved Shav.
Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he played out the Seymour scene from Futurama.
How could
And every
you?
fucking time, Shav just went with that knife and just fuck that guy. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a big reason, in my personal opinion. I mean, in my whiteboard, I have dog lover. You know what I mean? As one.
It's hard not to not like the dog lover.
Mm-hmm.
When he lashes out after his dog is killed, Jose made this joke while he was writing on his whiteboard. He was like, "Such a bad guy?" Question mark.
Misunderstood. Or I think somebody said the next John Wick?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, honestly, yeah. Every murder was justified after his dog was killed, as far as John Wick rules go.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's the protagonist now.
He's taking over the movie. You know what? I'm happy for it.
I'm
Yeah,
on his
exactly.
side if his dog died, dude. I cannot speak for how my own behavior would pan out if somebody killed my dog.
No, not whatsoever.
Yeah, I might stab a guy too.
Oh,
Or a couple.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not play though. The best scene in this movie was when they had the genius scheme to time travel back to the 1950s and buy gold with today's money.
Oh, yes.
You know, money has a date on it.
Also, how do you not think about that for more than a second? That's about all the time they spend. Oh, yeah, great idea. Here we go.
Just gonna
Hop in
buy
the
all this
car.
gold real quick. At least like go like exchange bills and stuff and try to get. I suppose they can't because there's been enough changes to like international money. But
all that it's been recycled out. The new papers and
yeah, it's
print.
very rare to find people with dollar bills that are that old nowadays. Like for the most part, I'm on Reddit, and every single time someone gives a dollar bill that old, they put it on Reddit because hardly anyone ever
Look
sees
at this
them anymore.
fucking thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
they don't make these anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't just go back into the past 50 years and try to give someone your money.
That was a really good scene, actually, though. Probably the best comedy scene in the whole movie because it was immediately after that they're like, "Get these motherfuckers, lock them up." And like, how great would the movie have been if it ended there?
Yeah,
right there
in a 1950s jail cell.
Yeah, and it all being all black and white like that gave it like a bit of a Charlie Chaplin feel to it too.
Yeah.
Like the way they were just
even
running out with the machine like in their hand and stuff.
They shrunk down this like the camera view too to make it look like a silent movie.
It was funny and clever how like the moment they go back in time, they're like, "Yep, black and white now."
It was, it had like Kung Fu Hustle vibes about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which adds to what you were saying in that this movie's just fun, it's like
it's fun, yeah.
It's like make sure not to take itself seriously, but at the same time that's just what bugs me because time travel for the most part is a bit of a serious subject, it's like
pretty much always, right?
Mm-hmm. Like it's very difficult to be able to get out scot-free for the most part, and it's like and they didn't come out scot-free. They came out ahead.
Hasn't that been... I mean, so, like, I think, though, if we're gonna treat things like tropes that are tropes...
Yes.
The ability to come off scot-free is the thing that's unheard of in time machine media and content. Like, I think oh, you altered the past and everything's ruined. Like, that's a trope. I don't know.
If you're saying that the upending of the time travel always has a bad outcome trope is a good thing for the movie,
it's subversive.
I would say doesn't make up for it.
I've never seen one that canceled everything in the movie. I think that was a very brave move. Like there are things I don't like about this movie. Don't get me wrong, but I think like upending the whole thing and having to cancel everything and having that situation where it's not a sad ending, but there is no picture perfect solution where you can just undo the things you want to, but keep the things like I think that would have been lame. You don't get to pick and choose what you did and did not alter. And like the only possible scenarios is everything gets undone or nothing gets undone and you're fucked.
Yeah. I think that my issue with it for the most part is the intensiveness of the positivity. They went too, like I said, saccharine. Like they went too far in the positive side because in my personal opinion, if they would have vanished in the golden dust as they did at that moment, and he would have woken up the very next morning after his hangover and having nothing changed, and like that's when essentially the timeline reasserts itself and is like, okay, it rubber bands back into that moment, you know what I mean? Because he might have lost consciousness after like the phone call, you know what I mean? So he like passes out, he wakes up the next morning, and that's where he gets inserted essentially into the timeline with the memories of what happened, but now he has a bit of foresight to be able to then go, either Anu calls him, you know what I mean, or he calls Anu and be like, I'll figure this out, I'll get a job, I'll figure, we'll do something, and in that way, he's still friends with Puli, that's never an issue, like their friendship is never put into question. He still has a prospect with Anu, and everything is still reset in that particular way, but it isn't put so forth ahead that he's already won in that way. Like he still has to go out and put the effort. He still has to go out and essentially do the epilogue that they told us supposedly happened. But at least at that point, we weren't just spoon fed the fact that like, oh yeah, all of these positive things happened, and then one right after the other, and then right after the other. There's a level of interpretation that we can that we can surmise as the viewer. That like, okay, he got reset back in time. All of that money that they made vanished. They don't actually have a successful business right now. He still doesn't have a job, but at least he has his health. Anu's still alive. The bad guy managed to die. And like those three big things, you know what I mean? Like those three primordial things about his timeline were real. And then he still gets to be scrappy, still gets to be the underdog, and still potentially gets to succeed at the end. You know,
I think going back to exactly the day where everything kicked off is also tropey. I'm not saying it's a bad
It is.
thing.
not
It
the
does
day
happen
happen off,
in
though. It was
movies,
the day
though.
right after.
Right, the day after the Hangover.
Yeah, the day after the Hangover.
That's like I'm trying to think of the movie. That's at least 10 movies though. That and it's not always time travel. It's usually it was always a dream.
Also, I
trope.
think we're like being a
But-
little bit too positive about the situation that they're in. If I didn't remember the last 2 months and I found out that, I don't know, I was married now, I might be a little bit upset.
Yeah. Hey, wifey.
See, that would no.
Trying to sneak her name out of her because you don't know.
There's
That
a
would
whole
be, you know
history
what would
there.
be, you know what would have been great if they would have wanted to keep that same through line is if he was on his married date, he was about to get married, but not to Anu, to somebody else. Like the
I might have
change-
liked that.
Like the changes in the timeline.
That would have been funnier.
The changes in the timeline, just like Boss said, you know what I mean? Positive, negative, you don't really get to know until it actually occurs. So he gets what he wants, quote unquote, which is to get married, but it isn't to the girl of his dreams because, you know, because
but
of
she's
the all
still
of the
alive,
dream.
so it's bittersweet.
Ah, yes. See, now that's more the butterfly effect
Yep.
kind of situation.
Yep.
You saved her life, but you don't get to keep her.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
which
a little
which I like that. I mean, I like the butterfly effects end in that way.
that ending, yeah. The
Mhm.
one where he goes back in time and he strangles
And he
himself
strangles
in
his
the
like
womb.
umbilical cord. Yeah, that's a bit too far.
You fucked up. You bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the original ending.
That's a director's cut ending.
That would
Yeah,
test
because I
screen or
watched
whatever.
I watched the butterfly effect in theaters, and it was the whole they're crossing each other. in the
Yeah,
street,
they walk
and
by each other.
He's like, you know,
can't do it.
Mhm.
No. Yeah.
Tune in for the butterfly effect episode.
Have you never seen that?
You made me watch that.
no,
Oh,
okay.
good.
No,
It's been a minute.
not that much.
Yeah,
Just
we don't have
talk
to do
about
it then.
I just
Yeah.
mean that's
Plus, we
not
just
what
watched the worst version that was funnier, so
I really do like the
No.
sense of humor in this.
it was
movie.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was fun.
it worked out.
All right, so ratings, guys.
Ooh, this is hard.
It
There's
is
so
a
many
tough one.
factors.
Yeah,
And it's
Yeah.
like they did so many things. So what did they do well versus not well?
yeah.
Well, we
I
went
like.
over a lot of that, but
Let's say because this is a culturally different movie than what we're normally used to, let's not use the exact same kind of rating. Let's go through more like criteria.
Mhm.
Okay. Main protagonist. What do we think about him?
hot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Who's considered the main protagonist? I
Vishnu.
thought these guys. I
would
thought they were like.
Elongo is the main protagonist, and Pooley is his sidekick.
Yeah.
I would say that's the
Yeah.
Oh.
With
But-
Neil deGrasse Tyson
But
as a
Pooley
close
was
third.
like the first character introduced of the timeline.
fair enough. That's true. Okay.
Like I was bought in
duo.
on him, and then he told the story.
The
Elongo.
principal duo then. What do we
Yeah.
think of them? What was their chemistry like? Do you guys like them on screen?
I like their chemistry. They gave me like a friend vibe for sure,
Like a
an-
buddy cop
long
thing.
time friend vibe.
Yes, they did a very good job of maintaining like really believable chemistry. Like
Mhm.
you could really believe that Pooley's come through to his house a bunch of times, you know, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
to the point that his mom's pissed off because he's eating way too much food. at
Yeah,
that point.
eat
They
and
might be
run.
buddies.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Mhm.
It's
Also,
pretty
like
good joke.
Pooley's character, whoever plays him, has like this wonderful talent for making his eyeballs look like they're gonna roll out of his skull. And
That's very true.
that was great. That was very good comedy. It really added an extra urgency to a lot of pieces of this.
bit of a retreaded ground, but the bad guy, badass, in my opinion.
I love the bad guy. Favorite character.
When near the end there, he's on the phone and he goes, "Who is this?" And he just responds, "Death." And
Yeah.
you get that screen grab of
Ooh.
him
Yeah.
with the bloody
So
face.
good.
Is there a cooler villain screen grab ever? No, I submit there is not.
No,
Yeah.
I submit to the board that there is not.
No, and from the get-go I was like, we take this guy seriously because he doesn't fuck around. He doesn't like take the delays. He doesn't do James Bond villain monologues. He just kills people.
and
And
he
that's what
doesn't
does.
fucking flinch.
No.
That man, 90% of his screen time was with a gun in his face, you know?
Did
He
he
doesn't
ever
care.
blink? I never saw him
He
blink.
kept talking on the phone with a gun in his
Yeah,
face.
it's like, wait,
and
let me end this
smoking.
demand before I get to your demand. But
Yeah.
don't do it. But don't smoke.
Yeah, but don't smoke, girls and boys. That's not good.
See, I think
We know he's cool, but
the
please don't smoke.
I wonder if, like in India, you have to send your movies to like some ministry that like checks like what it is.
Like the MPAA.
Yeah, something to that degree.
Yeah.
You know, and in this movie, you know, whoever was checking the movie, they're like, great movie, very fun. I mean, bad guy, too cool though. We're gonna have to put notices under every single under every negative everything that he does, because otherwise, highly impressionable. I want to smoke.
Dude, this movie
I
was
wanna
so
go kill
fun that
people,
it made me addicted to cigarettes.
Yeah.
So.
This is classic. Oh, they're bringing it back. Rock music is causing the killings and the teenagers in the movies.
No, the video games caused the violence.
That's
now.
right. It's the video games.
All right, story, fucking mess.
Yeah, it was a
opinion.
disaster.
It's a pile
I'm
of
sorry.
garbage.
It's an
I
absolute
enjoyed this
mess.
movie, but this story is like the story equivalent of spaghetti.
Yep.
It's like 3 Disney movies mashed together, so none of the plots roll, but all the characters are still fun.
Yep.
They wasted like 3 minutes of my time with the main character, one of the main characters, Alongo, trying to convince Anu that he doesn't remember the last 2 months of his life. And you could have given me that time for transitions between scenes, please, and timelines. Because it's like we were just in another timeline, and I was like, wait, I thought that guy was dead. Like,
Oh my gosh, yes, absolute mess.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was
Tarantino's got
hectic.
nothing on this.
No, not whatsoever. At least he puts the time when things change.
There's black and white letters on the screen. There's demarcations anyway.
You know the next person the bride's gonna kill. You're not
Yeah,
They tell you.
story messy for sure.
Soundtrack, banger.
Fuck yeah, I love the soundtrack. Even when I watched part of the trailer of this movie to get a feel for it, see if it was subbed, see what the deal was. And just watching the trailer, I was like into it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The soundtrack made what could have been sometimes quite cheesy, like what's it called? Scenes and man, what is it when there's like a quick cut through of many
A montage?
a montage, yes. Multiple montages much less cheesy than they could have been.
Yeah.
They could have cut all the fucking montages as far as I'm concerned.
But then you wouldn't have the music in the same way, though.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing. It's like the one carries the other, and the music most certainly does the heavier lifting for sure.
You know what? The one murder montage was cool. I'll take back what I said.
That's true. That one was awesome. The special effects,
Well done for where they
Fine.
were.
yeah, they were passable for sure.
Yeah,
Didn't bother me.
what you very, very aptly compared to the Dementor, like disintegration of Voss was awesome. I thought that
Mhm.
was done
Hey,
very
wait
well.
a second. How come he went like a Dementor and the other guys went like Time Doctor?
Because he was
Time
dying. He was
Lords.
going to not exist anymore because he
Oh,
killed himself.
Mhm.
So you turn into black smoke when
Yeah,
you disappear
he erased
forever.
himself from the timeline. The timeline was trying to reassert them back where they were
Oh.
supposed to be.
As little time particles. Or
Yep,
whatever.
exactly. Yep, exactly. Which is why I was saying the whole waking up once you're drunk would have fit just fine in that way, because that it would have been a good intermeshing that wouldn't have taken you 2 months in the future. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
This
Also,
whole fucking tomb. Yeah.
to give credit to one more thing in this movie, this is a 2.5-hour movie. And I was entertained throughout it. Like, I was paying attention, and I get bored very easily.
yeah. Yeah, I never felt I mean, there are moments in movies where I sometimes I'm like, man, have I gotten everything I need out of this movie? You know what I mean? But in this one, the oddness, the knowing the fact that they don't take themselves so seriously, so there will be probably some humor and hilarity and the absurdity as it goes along,
Yep.
made it so I actually wanted to at least finish it, because I wanted to know, okay, it's gonna finish fucking weird. So please, just tell me how. Yeah,
Let's have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can we
Because-
not take 2 hours to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I have difficulty focusing, and in the beginning of this movie, I was totally thrown off because they say like English phrases, and I was like sucked into reading the subtitles, and then I'd hear something in English, and it would distract me. So I missed like some of the first scene dialogue, but I adjusted pretty quickly, and from there on out, it became like a fun thing. I
Yeah,
think.
the intermixing of Hinglish, I would say, is
English.
quite interesting in that way. Because yeah, apparently, yeah, just some phrases you just can't say in that language.
Time machine.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like a uppity thing to do to speak English around people because the one cop was
Yeah.
like, "Don't fucking do that."
Yeah, don't start talking English to me.
Don't.
I'll increase your
I
fine.
will
Yeah.
arrest you
Actually,
right now.
Boss did it like a bunch.
What?
In the later scene when Boss comes back,
Mm-hmm.
he said like a lot of things in English back to back.
Well, he is of a higher rank of society, being
Yeah.
a hitman and all. So.
No,
Didn't
boss.
the neighbor lady call him a fruit?
No,
Oh,
no,
boss.
boss, not Vosh.
Vosh.
Yeah, Vosh is the bad guy.
Vosh. I thought you said Vosh,
No.
not boss.
Yeah, no, boss just seems like, yeah, he's just uppity in that way.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He likes to, not to pretend that he's smart, because he is obviously smart. You know, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he
But
partially fixed a time machine like
Mhm.
way before, like years before it was invented.
You know, I would imagine that perhaps also there might be a cultural sting there, because I mean, the amount of time that the English were, you know, had annexed India.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure that speaking English at this point, it's like, oh wait, that's the colonizer's language. You speak
Right.
this language, right? We made our own fucking country. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Good
Mhm.
point. Yeah.
so I think overall, I'm hearing more positives than negatives at the end of the day, though. I mean, like, sure, story is a really big, you know, factor
Yeah.
at the end of it all. Like, I'm not saying that every one of the facets that we just went through is you know, of equal measure at the end of it, but I mean, I personally don't feel a negative type of way about the movie.
I have to give it a 2.5. I'm like right in the middle. There's a lot that I enjoyed about this movie, but the fact that the plot was so confusing and messy is just like too big of a thing for me to give it over half.
I'm going to piggyback off of your rating and give it a 2.5 as well. I think if they would have just cleaned up the story, even just a hair, you know, either by making the consequences be a little more negative, maybe, and that's just maybe my westernized version of thinking, you know, but that's just my bias. Or just made it so he had to try a little harder, because by the end it just felt like everything was just given to him by the matter of him being the protagonist, and not a big fan of that. I mean, like, biggest point in that, Pooley just gets a wife. I mean, it isn't even a situation where like he's like he had his eye on her prior to, you know what I mean, and it's like she
It's
like,
just a lady.
yeah, it's just a lady that he's like married to now.
I mean, arranged marriages are common in India.
No doubt, no doubt. But that's not the case in this movie,
Right, and
At
not
least-
in your 30s.
At least
right?
within the conceptions of like how his friend is doing it, right? It's like he's seeking Anu, you know.
Their
he's trying to-
relationship is a secret, though, probably for that reason. And as soon as it's learned that she's dating someone, it's like, what family does he come from? What does he do for work?
of a lower caste.
Yeah.
That's
And I
true.
have to imagine that, Pooley, is that how you say his
Yeah,
name?
Pooley.
I have to imagine that he has like decent prospects, or would have decent prospects, because he's an astrologer and that's like a thing.
Right. At the very end of the day, at least he's got his own business, you know.
Mhm.
So it's just not thriving at the moment, but he does have it. And it would have been hilarious if they would have shown that Pooley has like a really good memory. So even though they went back in time, he can remember where everybody's like lost
All their
shit was
shit was
anyways.
lost.
Yeah.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
He's
Set
got
all the
it.
do it
Let's
anyways.
throw a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. I can remember like 30 of them. It's cool. Like
Well, and the thing is, if you find a lost thing for a family one time, you probably have a client for life.
exactly, because you don't have to keep doing it with 100% accuracy.
Yeah, because a lot of it
They
is
remember
advice.
the hits. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they forget the misses.
Yep, exactly. And if anything, you can always move. Once you get it one hit, you can always deflect the misses back to them because of a lack of faith. Be like, see, the first time you came to me, you came with a lot of conviction. God felt you. God felt the fact that you needed this. But this time it feels a little flippant. Let me be honest with you.
You have just aptly described the epistemological hole that the United States is inside of.
And with that, I would like to say a good day and a
Wait,
good
wait, we didn't
Oh,
get
no.
Matt's vote.
No, that's fine. I'll just piggyback right this. I was going to say 2, but maybe 2.5 since it made me laugh 3 times. That's about it. Yeah, we went over all the specifics. I'm not going to watch it again.
No, I certainly wouldn't
Yeah.
either. But
I don't
I
watch
did
any
not.
movies again.
I did not mind my viewing of it.
Yeah.
I had fun.
I had fun too.
All right, guys. Thank you for sticking with us. And if you enjoyed it, please click like, please click subscribe, and join us next time.
We'll see
And
you
let
next
us
time.
know why you liked it. We want to know.
Yeah, say something.
Fuck.
Fucking A.